Hello loves, and welcome to today's video. It is finally the month of Halloween, which means it's horror season. So today I'm going to give you the rundown of the 13 books in the horror genre that I like best, and hopefully you'll find something in this list that you enjoy as well. Number 13 is Skull Daddy by Stephanie Ann. This is a very short, independently published horror. It is about our main characters who are a couple and their daughter falls absolutely in love with this Halloween decoration that she calls Skull Daddy. Anytime they go to take it down after Halloween is over, their daughter kicks and screams and says, "No, Skull Daddy doesn't want you to do that. He's talking to me. He hates you." All of these things, and it basically follows a year in the life of this family being driven crazy by this potentially possessed Halloween decoration. So obviously the perfect recommendation for a Halloween month. Next, we have We Used to Live Here by Marcus Kleuer. This is about another couple who has just purchased this new old house. They're intending to fix it up and flip it. When one of the partnership is out for the day, one is staying home, and they get a knock at the door, and there's this family who's like, "He is the father figure. This is my childhood house growing up, just moving through the state, and can we just have a look so I can show my kids where I grew up?" She is very awkward about it. She doesn't want to do it. She debates saying no, and then she kind of holds herself in. It's like, fine, but like 15 minutes. And they just keep finding reasons to stay, and then the house starts doing some weird stuff. I loved this. It had House of Leaves, but with being a bit more accessible of a format. So if you've been intimidated by House of Leaves because it's a brick, it's weird with the spiraling and the footnotes and all that, read We Used to Live Here, see if that's your vibe, and then spoilers. Next is Pinata by Leopoldo Gu. This is about a family who the mother is in Mexico. She's like an architect or something, and she's overseeing this work crew who is trying to fix up this old abbey. And they break down a wall and they find these weird old artifacts that are clearly from like colonization, from missionaries, things like that. They might have unearthed more than just actual artifact. They might have unearthed something that attaches itself to her daughter. So then they go back to New York, but this thing comes with them. I feel like this book deals a lot with colonization, the generational trauma that colonization had, while also being just really creepy. I really loved the writing style of this as well. It had some really beautiful passages, so I really enjoyed Pinata, and that's my next recommendation. Next, we have Monstrilio. This is about a family whose very young son died, and the mom reads this urban legend that if you keep a piece of their organs and start feeding it, you might be able to regrow something, and she does that. What grows is a little monster. This deals obviously a lot with grief, grieving children, and given the age of the child, I think there's like hints of how puberty changes you and learning to love people even with their flaws, which obviously a monster is gonna have some pretty bad flaws. I loved this, and also not a single character in it was straight, and I was living for that. So definitely recommend Monstrilio by Geraldo Samana Cordova. Next, we have 13 Storeys by Jonathan Sims. So this is about this British apartment building and the very different people who live there. Kind of goes through basically each apartment and some kind of weird experience each of them have had in this building. And then at the end, it kind of brings everybody all together to explain what's going on in this building. Jonathan Sims wrote one of my favorite narrative podcasts, which is the Magnus Archives, and this definitely had some high expectations to live up to since I loved the podcast first, and I think it lived up to that. I really enjoyed this. If you're a fan of an Eat the Rich narrative, highly recommend this one. Next, we have How to Sell a Haunted House by Grady Hendrix. This might be a controversial choice because I know a lot of people who read it when it first came out didn't enjoy it as much as a lot of other Grady Hendrix books, so there were a lot of people who didn't like this. I loved it. This is about a woman and her brother, and their parents have just passed away, and there's kind of a dispute over who now owns the house that their parents lived in. And also their mother like collected puppets, so their house is full of these old creepy puppets, and there's one very specifically that maybe might be alive. So on the one hand, you have horror over a creepy puppet, which the Goosebumps books with the puppets always freaked me out the most. Horrifying for me. But then you also have the narrative of like siblings feuding and having a fallout over the fortune, more modest than most, but still fortune that their parents left behind, dealing with grief while also dealing with the material things left behind. I really enjoyed it. I know it's not everyone's favorite, but I liked it, so it gets to be on this list. Next, we have Evil in Me by Brom. This one just came out like last week when I'm filming this, so this might be a little bit of recency bias, but I loved this so much. Our main character, Ruby, is on parole. She has 1 week left, and then she can leave her shitty town, her shitty family behind, and move to Atlanta with her best friend. Part of her community service is looking over this elderly Jewish man. When she's there, there's this ring that he has in a box, and it starts kind of singing to her. And so she just can't stop herself from breaking into his house in the middle of the night to put that ring on. And oh, it contained part of a demon, so now she's possessed and has to try and figure out how to get this demon out of her head with the power of punk rock. I love this. Brom is probably one of my new favorite authors, like maybe a little bit below Brandon Sanderson, but I loved all of the Brom books that I read last month. I loved this one as my favorite of the narrative ones. The paintings in here, all of the art that Brom does for his books is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And the narrative is so vivid to go along with that because he is a visual artist. He really knows how to set a scene. And I love a possession story. I love demons. I love punk rock. This is very high in my top horror of the releases in 2024. Next recommendation is one that is going to be a very different experience for everyone who reads it because it's intended to be that way. Subcutanean by Erin Reed is about these two friends in college who find a infinite maze in the basement of their house. They kind of end up traveling to parallel worlds. This has creepy labyrinth vibes. This has like Are You Who You Say You Are vibes. The very unique thing about this one is that unless you buy one of the 2 seeds that are available on Amazon, if you buy them directly through the author, you get a unique copy of that book because there are hundreds of ways that this book can be slightly altered based on the characterization of the characters, the layout of the house, which parallel dimension they travel to. So I have read 2 different copies of this book and they were different experiences. It's such a unique format, it's such a unique premise that also fits the format. I had such a cool experience reading Subcutanean. I definitely recommend it to everyone. And if there's maybe like one thing you're like, I don't really like that, try a second copy because it might be completely different the second time you read a different copy. Next, this is not an IKEA catalog. This is Horrorstor by Grady Hendrix. This is about an employee at, definitely for legal reasons, not IKEA, who has been asked by her boss to stay overnight in the store to investigate what potentially could be a break-in. So her and a few of her fellow employees stay overnight in this overstuffed furniture warehouse. This was so creepy, and the format of this again. I guess I like books that play with format because obviously this book looks like an IKEA catalog, and each of the chapters has like a different fake furniture on it, like this spiked treadmill. So creepy, so fun. Love a book that plays with format. Highly recommend Horrorstor. This is probably my favorite Grady Hendrix of all the ones I've read, and most of them I really enjoyed, so that's saying something. My favorite Stephen King gets 4th place in this list, and that is Misery. Misery is about this author who's just completed the draft of what he thinks is going to be his magnus opus when he gets into a car crash. The author wakes up in the spare bedroom of this nurse named Annie. And Annie is a huge fan of this author, specifically his like historical romance series, and in the last one he killed off the main character of that series. So she is like, I'm gonna take care of you, I'm gonna help mend you, but what you're going to do is write a new novel in my favorite series and bring back the character that I loved that you killed off. And she goes to just some insane levels to keep him bedbound to make sure that she gets the ending for this character that she thinks she deserves. Loved it. It's my favorite Stephen King. The movie's also great with Kathy Bates. Misery by Stephen King. Number 3 on this list also might be a little bit of recency bias because it is the most recent book that I have given 5 stars to, and that was My Darling Dreadful Thing by Joanna Van Veen. This is about a woman in like post-World War II Netherlands who has been like forced by her mother to do fake seances, except they're only a little bit fake because the main character does have a ghost that's like her companion. The spirit world is real, but these seances are fake. And she ends up doing a seance for this other lady who ends up also having a spirit who's attached to her and a companion. They end up moving in together. This was like a gothic horror with sapphic vibes, and like bog bodies are a big thing in here. I just had so much atmospheric enjoyment of this book. It felt creepy, it felt oppressive when it needed to be, or wide open when it needed to be, in equally creepy ways. I loved this. I loved the characters. It was written so beautifully. I'm definitely going to be keeping out an eye for Joanna Van Veen's newest releases because I absolutely loved My Darling Dreadful Thing. Well, this is probably not a surprise given some of the other books on this list, but number 2, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a book within a book within a book, basically. There's this house that they call the House of Leaves, and a documentary was made about it because there's this hallway that's like an inch bigger on the inside than the outside of the house. And sometimes there's a door there that leads into this labyrinth. An academic wrote a book examining this documentary. Could it be real? What happened in it? What interviews have been done with the people in it after the fact? And then on top of that, you have some random miscreant who has found this book written about this documentary and is adding his own footnotes and feels like whatever happened in the house is now kind of looming in the background behind his own experience. This plays with format to really try and get you to feel the oppression, the confusion, something creeping up behind you feeling that you would have if you were walking through this labyrinth. There's footnotes that leave you forwards and then backwards and then upside down, and then there's the appendix and then back, and then there's hidden coded messages in the first letter of every letter of this page. I read this on vacation and I just stewed in this world for 3 days straight. Oh, it was so good. I could feel like something was creeping up behind me while reading it. A little fun decoding, but not like too complex. I just love a book that plays with format, so House of Leaves, so fantastic for me and me specifically. And the final book in my horror recommendations for this October Halloween month, Maeve Fly by CJ Lead. This was my best book last year, so obviously it gets the top spot here too. This is about our main character who by day is like a Disney princess, but she really does not have a Disney princess disposition because at night she's dreaming of like ripping people's teeth out. And she's best friends with one of the other Disney princesses, and as they are growing older, they're kind of growing apart as well. And she does not react well to that happening, becomes a little bit unhinged, just a little. So this is often described as like feminist American Psycho, which I haven't read American Psycho, so I don't know how accurate that is, but there's also like a super steamy hockey romance in the middle of this. The hockey romance in this is better than Icebreaker. So if you want an unhinged protagonist and a hot hockey romance in the same book, read Maeve Fly. I loved it so much. This cover, still can't get over how stunning it is. Read Maeve Fly. CJ Lead has another book coming out in October. and you know I'm gonna be all over that. So these are my recommendations for horror season. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite horror books are, because I am always looking for new horror book recommendations. Or if you just want to leave an emoji, leave the fly so I know that you made it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed, like and consider subscribing so you don't miss any more of my future videos. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.